Our initial mission when we launched CFI was to democratize elite financial training.
In the past, banks used to train their new employees. But what was happening over time was in order to get the job, students were having to demonstrate they already had some of those skills, but they had no way to access training on those skills.
In the very early days, it's like, how does something like this not already exist? And it didn't. We got to build it.
Because we were bootstrapped, we had no marketing budget. What we had to do initially, and what I had to spend a lot of my time doing, was getting SEO traffic. So writing articles, creating resources, templates, YouTube videos, all the things that we could essentially put out there for free of value to get people to come to our site and check out our product. We took the same classroom training that you'd get if you were hired at a global investment bank and brought that to you anywhere in the world. As long as you have access to the internet, you could get this world-class training.
When you're developing asynchronous training, that live person, that live instructor isn't there. So it's a real mind shift. You've got to make sure that you're explaining things really clearly, that you are taking a really structured progression in terms of the lesson so that you're building skills in a clearly defined way.
Check out the link to see the full job description.
Sure, that's great.
I think having worked in the content team before I worked in the product team really taught me to see everything through the eyes of a learner.
But you have to build the model, and then you have to figure out how to teach it. And then you kind of iterate back and forth. So it's sort of an iterative process, but it always starts with that financial model.
Everything is about making sure that the learners are getting the top quality.
My goal was to become the head of finance, but I didn't have a formal background in finance. But the cost was simply out of my budget. So I continued researching alternatives, and I came across the FMVA program. Because I could see the value in the education, I committed to starting work at 5 a.m. so I could fit in a 2-hour study session before the day began, and then another 2 at the end of the day. So the bite-sized nature of the lessons made that really possible. The African Leadership Group launched an initiative to empower over 15,000 financial and business analysts across Africa. And this was in partnership with CFI. So CFI needed a team to support that initiative. And when I heard about it, I just immediately reached out.
We partnered with an organization in Africa to upskill folks across the whole African continent. And we would have 3,000, 4,000 people attending. And everyone just saying, thank you, you've changed my life. You've made such a difference. It just knocked the socks off me.
At CFI, though, I was shown that anyone can start from a zero knowledge base, grow enough skills to land a finance job, and then also go work at their dream company in a short amount of time.
I feel incredibly humbled to be able to contribute to CFI's mission. I'm contributing to something that I know is genuinely helpful based on my personal experiences. And I've lived through those same challenges that our learners are facing today.
It's not one specific piece of feedback, it's the breadth and width of the feedback that we get, the volume of the feedback that we get from all across the globe.
I chose CFI, the Corporate Finance Institute.
I can honestly say that this is the best online training I have ever undertaken.
I was hooked, and I realized I've got to do this.
It's helped me sharpen my financial modeling skills.
It was so of value.
It really gave me confidence in the skills.
I mean, the value for money is amazing.
It is the best course you will take in your entire life.
The certification really allowed me to now be in a strategy role, and it's the best role I've ever had.
Seeing those learner testimonials just from emailing them or messaging them on LinkedIn is great. And I think that CFI is just like, we're just a breeding ground for those kinds of stories to happen.
In Africa, I think high quality finance education is expensive and it's often geographically limited. So CFI democratizes finance education because it breaks these barriers.
CFI's impact is more than just, a mid-level finance professional learning something new. It really is supporting a global economic shift in the world of finance. The first week I joined CFI, I had the pleasure of diving into a project to support the African Leadership Group in getting 40,000 learners certified.
The most exciting and also stressful times from the technology side, this was the first time that the platform had really been tested at that level.
And we had about 24 to 48 hours of really all hands on deck to keep it online. That experience that number of years ago, that's something which is just sort of normal day to day.
I'm going to have to say the work that we've done recently to translate the subtitles of every single course that CFI offers into 30 additional languages.
Last year, we translated the entirety of all of CFI's course video content to 30 different languages, delivered at scale to thousands of hours of video content.
I just think this is such a huge opportunity, especially for audiences where English perhaps isn't their first language.
I think the language that we are speaking is finance, so to speak, and it is financial modeling. And I don't think that they necessarily need a traditionally fluent command of the English language type skill to be able to understand. I think a lot of it is just in the numbers.
We've had 2.8 million learners register on our platform, just about every single country. The most important number of all is we're approaching 100,000 certification holders. If I had to pick one that really stands out for me is a gentleman by the name of Alonso, who was in Lima, Peru. When he interviewed for his first job at Goldman Sachs to be an investment banking analyst, 2 of the 3 interviewers knew of CFI and the FMVA program. And it was because they saw FMVA on his resume that they gave him the interview.
To start seeing FMVA on resumes is incredible.
When he was in the interview, they said that they were asking him harder questions than the other candidates because they knew they could push him since he had his FMVA. And he ended up getting the job offer and working there, and he's been thriving at Goldman Sachs ever since.
We're not just building a brand. We are building a reinforceable movement in the workforce.
They learn more practical real-world skills than they did in 4 years at university.
One of the things, at least for me, is I like to teach the way that I would like to be taught. And the way that I like to be taught is that I always like to see things applied.
Don't replace the value of subject matter experts. I still think that's core to CFI, that people want to hear from real people. Learners want to hear from people who've done the job. And those are often the aha moments which they care about.
We're embracing the age of AI internally and externally. And I foresee AI not as something that's replacing finance professionals, but a tool every finance professional will need to learn to utilize for the long term.
When I think about what I'm most proud of at CFI, I'm really proud of the team that's built CFI and the team that's running CFI now.
I joined in January 2018. There were 3 employees in total at CFI, plus an intern. So it's super early days for CFI.
Just at that moment, CFI were looking for someone to lead the beta program and to teach data and analytics. So the stars aligned and I joined CFI just before the pandemic.
The team back then, we were a bit scrappy, but super ambitious. We were wearing multiple hats at the same time.
I mean, we're talking about 10 years ago. There really was no online program where we had these curated courses that were developed for very specific career paths in investment banking and capital markets. But there was such a need for it. It was so obvious.
The ones that thrive are the ones who love education and love learning because they experience it. Like that's what we're building. So in order to build something well, you have to know it and they have to use it.
I came from a very humble working class background. And I lucked out because I got to be the first to go to university and then got an amazing job and it opened all the doors. And I realized that there's lots of talented people out there who just don't get those opportunities. If I can actually impact people's lives, like my life was impacted by education, that's going to make me feel good. And so I'm delighted. I have learners reaching out to me all the time, thanking me for helping them get a better job or a new job, and from all walks of life and all around the world, and that is very heartwarming.
There are still tens of millions of finance professionals around the world that have not had access to a career transformative training program such as ours. And we want to help finance professionals navigate these changes with new tools, new technologies, and workflows that are changing and career paths that are changing. We want to be that career-long partner. It's going to be a lot of work on our part, but it's going to be exciting work and rewarding work, and we look forward to reaching all these people over the coming years.